Hello, everyone out there in podcast world. I hope you're having a great day. You're listening to the Service Business Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Tersh. Today, we get the honor of having a special guest on here today. This person is, I can say that there's a couple of people who made a huge impact on my life as I was getting into the industry. And a lot of you have heard me, if you listen to the podcast for a long time, you've known that when I was service manager, GM, and install manager in a previous life, that we use BDR for our coaching. And that's where I really learned the numbers side of things. And honestly, without the impact of that team, I can honestly say that I as a person, I wouldn't understand the why behind why I need these numbers. Whenever we were creating the 8 for 10 report, when we were doing all these things, it was like, why do I need to know these numbers? And this team here is the one that really explained it to me, and really made it, instead of me just being a paper pusher and saying, we need this many service techs for this many dispatchers and blah, 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 blah. Like, they really explained to me why. And I'm an asker, which is the reason why I have a podcast, I guess, because I like to ask questions. But they would always help me out, the whole team, and they never stopped and they never skipped a beat. And I've always been super appreciative of that. And I don't know why I'd never thought to have them on the podcast before now, but I definitely want to welcome you to the show, Bruce.
All right, excellent. Well, thanks, Tersh. It's an honor to be here, and I'm really excited for our conversation today.
Absolutely. So today we're going to talk a little bit about planning in general. Originally, we were going to talk about business planning, but now since we've made our appointment and gotten on the books with each other, we've had this epidemic, or this pandemic that has outbroke with the COVID-19. And you made a great point when we were talking earlier about the people who are succeeding right now are the people who were planning before. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about that planning, and I'm super excited about that. But before we get started, tell us who you are, what is BDR, what does that stand for, and all that.
Sure. Excellent. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, BDR stands for Business Development Resources. We're a coaching and training company. We have a program called our Profit Coach program. It was launched in 2003, and we have today about 600 members that participate on a monthly basis in our coaching. And we also have a training arm, and we have about 10,000 people that come to our trainings throughout the United States in a given year. Now, those are live 2-day trainings. Some are 1, some are 3 days. Of course, this year with the live training, that side of our business is taking a temporary setback, but our coaching program is alive and well, and in all kind of crises, there's opportunities that abound, and we've started doing virtual live training and made that switch pretty quickly. And I think we have about 3 or 4 of those under our belt, with another half a dozen on the books. So cool. We're coming out of this. We're going to have that as an arm. Before we were busy flying around the country and conducting 2-day training classes, and our coaches and trainers were busy in the training aspect. Now this will, when we come back, and I'm guessing we'll be back on site at both at the BDR University sessions we hold throughout the United States, as well as at local distribution. But we'll have a live virtual training program as well. So
very cool.
We're expanding. So
yeah, it's
really exciting.
You take the pain point and turn it into a good point. You learn from it, and you can even pivot that into a portion of your business.
Yep. Yeah. There's chaos. There's opportunity in chaos.
Absolutely.
And so you've just got to search it out. You've got to find out, well, what's going to change. And how's this different? And I got to tell you, our entire team. I mean, there's a lot of anguish and grief and sadness, of course, in the United States right now,
right,
and we all feel it, and all can empathize and relate to that. But our team, thankfully, they're all healthy, and they're basically sheltering in place as ordered, but they're very, very active on both the training and the coaching side, and they are enthusiastic and they're getting it done. I would say they're fired up. And so that's kind of like some wind at my back, if you will. It makes it a lot easier to be a leader of the team when you've got just an awesome team behind you. So
absolutely,
I'm humbled every day.
So when you got into the industry, you said it was 05 or 03, was it?
Let's see. So BDR was incorporated in 1998.
Okay.
Prior to that, I probably should step back a little bit. After I graduated college in the late 80s, long time ago, some of my employees team members weren't even born yet that are on our team. I went and I had a degree in finance and accounting, and went to work in corporate America for about a year. Absolutely hated it. I've had a passion for entrepreneurship and had started a couple of businesses in college. And I went to the phone company of all places. It was called GTE, turned into Verizon. Back in the day, this is before cell phones. Their cell phones are just coming out. So there was the regulated side of the business, unregulated side. And they hired me, ironically, for my entrepreneurial desires and skills. They said the phone company needed that. That was right during the deregulation, Reagan era and all that. And well, that's what they said they needed. But I found out when I got there, they weren't ready to adapt that. And so it was just, I was some guy in a cubicle. And one of my coworkers had gone over to this heating company in Redmond, Washington, and home of Microsoft. And she called me about 3 months after leaving and said, I'd like you to come over and talk with me and a business owner here, and let's see if there's a fit for you here at B&B Heating. So I went over there, and frankly, I went over there thinking this was just going to be a practice interview because I was already planning my escape from utility. And I went over there, and what was supposed to be about a 10-minute conversation with the owner turned into about a 2.5-hour session, and we bonded immediately. It was like we were brothers, man, and
cool.
It was very cool. And that gentleman was Barry Burnett, and a lot of you might know him or have heard of him, and he's just was a really special person. And he and I had the privilege, or I had the privilege, I should say, of working with him in 3 different capacities for 30 years. First as an employee, as the controller, and then general manager of his business. And then when he went to Gensco, he became the train equipment sales manager, and he became a client of mine. And so I started working with him and the train dealers in the Northwest. And that was probably in 1994, 95. And Northwest Management Group was that company, and that was the predecessor to BDR.
Okay.
In that, I hired Kim Archer, and Kim Archer is our vice president of business coaching and today. And so she and I have been working together for 25 years or something. It's flying by. When decades are flying by, you're having fun, right?
Really true. Yeah.
It just seems like yesterday. Anyways, when Barry decided it was time for him to leave Gensco, I had been talking to him and said, Barry, there's something here. Because I was going all across the Northwest, so a little bit in Anchorage, but Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, working with train dealers, helping them with labor management, setting up sales compensation plans, working on their marketing, business planning, structure, and helping them make money in new construction if that was their niche, or certainly replacement and retrofit. So anyway, after doing that for a couple of years, and Barry decided he wanted to leave, we got together and started talking. I said, we can take this model nationwide, and there's a hunger for it. There's a desire. We have a certain passion, and so that's what happened. That kind of the dream began, and
that was what? That was in what year was that?
That was 1998. The BDR incorporated. Okay. And then in 1999, we really got started. We became a strategic training ally with the train company, and went around and conducted, back then we probably had 5 or 6 different 2-day training classes that we conducted. And then in 2000, we wrote the Train Comfort Specialist Manual. We had, which was a 1,000-page missive, if referred to as the book, and some people call it the Bible, which
Yep.
I was a little weird about, but I preferred the book, So, and it was literally everything. It was process and procedure driven.
Yeah.
You could hand that book to anyone that if they didn't know the industry, and if they wanted to find out a certain part or they wanted to find out about a particular position, it was right there.
It's funny.
So,
I've had the Bible in my hand before, and it was actually thrown at me. It was more like a at me, and
learn this, right?
yeah. I was in the industry. I was a service tech for about, I want to say it was less than 2 years. I was a service tech, and the service manager left, and I was senior service tech, I guess. I don't know. I just got the next guy in line, and I did that transition, a transition that I wouldn't recommend myself. And I think that y'all told Fred, my previous employer,
Right.
that's not a good idea. Don't do what you're doing. But Fred was like, I'm doing it. And he did it. And then I thankfully, I had so little knowledge about what to do in that role that literally anything that you gave me, Jennifer gave me, anybody gave me, it was like, okay, I'm going to do it because I don't know if this is right or wrong. So I'm going to do it. And it was like, here's a spreadsheet, punch these numbers in every day by 8 o'clock. And I'm like, okay, I punch the numbers in at 8 o'clock. And then, they all come in and I'm like, okay, this is how it does. And they're like, why are you like, I got this call several times, like, why are you doing all of these exactly like this? I was like, because I don't know how not to do it that way. So I can't, I have to do it your way because there is no other way of me doing this.
Yeah.
And the person that my predecessor, he refused to do it. So it went from paying for the service department coaching and not getting any results to immediately turning around and getting results. And so I looked like this great person when in fact it was just, I couldn't screw it up because there was nothing, like I couldn't do it a different way. I didn't know how to do it a different way. So it was a really cool process to watch the entire service department grow. Cause I came on board in 2007. That's whenever I became a service manager.
Okay.
And so it was 2007 and it was one service tech under me to start with. It was me and one service tech. And then whenever I left 7 years later, I think it was 7 years later, something like that. 5 to 7 years later, we had 8 service techs under me. And, that entire time during that recession, we were growing, whereas like all of our competitors, they were failing. And it was just me punching in numbers every single day. And I knew because this is before GPS integrated into Service Titan or anything like that. So I was having to put in the GPS coordinates, like when they got their arrival time, the travel time. And so I just created these Excel spreadsheets and, punched it all in there. And so we knew like every single day what our 8 for 10 score was. 8 for 10, 8 for 10. Like what are we going to get to? And I just remember that being beaten in my head. And then like people would ask me like, what's 8 for 10 mean? I was like, what do you mean you don't know what 8 for 10 means? Like that's what it is. It's what it is. Like how are you a service manager and you don't know what that is? And it was it's hilarious to me whenever I talk to people and they didn't have that. I mean, I was very, very fortunate that Fred spent the money on me to go out to Seattle several times and meet with y'all and to do on sites with us. And this one time who was it that came on site? I think it was Jennifer, or it might have been, it was somebody that came on site and we had like $50,000 worth of warranty compressors sitting in the corner. And she flipped her lid on me. She was like, what is that? I was like, I thought, because when she came in, I was like, oh yeah, come on, you're doing an on-site? I got service department down. Like I do everything y'all tell me to do. Immediately she walks in the door, looks, and it's like a big old stack of compressors and coils. And she knew what it was. And she said, what is that? I was like, warranty stuff, warranty compressors. And she was like, why is it there? I was like, that's where warranty stuff goes. And she said, no, it goes to drain. I was like, oh God, I'm going to die. But it was really cool experience. That was pretty fun.
Well, but you were driven to learn and you were adaptable.
Yeah.
And you had all the traits of somebody that just wanted to, soak up all that information and knowledge and then turn it around and apply it to your business and your situation.
Yeah.
And that's really cool. I think it's hard to call this a job. I've got the best gig in the world because I get to hear stories like that all the time. And it's just a really special thing. So thank you for sharing that. And you've turned that into your own success, man. Look at you. So
we try.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So
cool. So we're getting a little bit off topic, but it's all
Sure.
cool conversation. Planning out, like looking back now, what could you say that you planned out other than your actual business plan or like a map of like what you're going to do? And what do you call it? I forget what you call it, where everybody goes to meet in Seattle at the end of the year.
It's called Profit Launch. It's called Profit Launch.
That's it.
And it's a 3-day business planning workshop. We're on our 15th year. Just rough calculations, we think we've done roughly 3,200 business plans over that time. And this year, prior to COVID, we'll probably be talking in terms for going forward as before COVID and after COVID, right?
Right.
We were anticipating, just under 1,000 attendees coming out. And we usually start about mid-September, go about every other week. We'll have a session, and they can be, topping out at 100 or so. Sometimes we have a couple in a row. I try not to do that because the team gets really cranky. So
I went to one of them, but I was left on site. No, I went to 2 of them, but I was left on back home for a couple of them, and it was just as rough for us back home as it was there, because we were getting phone calls. I need you to fax this. I need you to send this. Email this over. And this is like back when email was first getting started, and you're like, oh crap, like sending everything over to Seattle. It was funny.
Yeah. Well, it's always interesting to watch. The first year folks come. We now have 4 different versions of Profit Launch. One is just Profit Launch General. We have Profit Launch Masters, and then Doctorate, and then Elite. And the idea is you would go to the general session for 2 years, go to the Masters for a couple years, Doctorate, and the Elite is more for, I'd say larger companies that are bringing their entire team. So it's not uncommon to have a table where there might be, 8 or 9 people, around that table, and they're all planning, spending 3 days together on the plan. But what's always interesting is to watch, in the first year of planning, it's good. Second year, it's great. And then third year and beyond, it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll watch somebody that was just there last year, and they're back and they're sitting at the table with somebody that's brand new. And last year they were pulling their hair out because they're going, oh my gosh, flood of data and information, and why is that important? Okay, I got it. And then the newbies, they're sitting next to the newbie this time. And, and the person is there, and they're kind of trying to calm them down. Don't worry, it's going to be fine,
and
there's that.
You'll live. Take a breath.
That's right. Drinking from the fire hose, as they say. And people are upset. They go, well, I don't have those numbers. I've never been told to track them. It's like, well, that's okay. We got to start someplace, right? It's okay. Don't beat yourself up. We'll get this thing.
So how can you tell me how has technology changed the way that y'all have been able to do things? Because I know back in 05, 07 to 2010-ish, whenever, you were having to create the Excel spreadsheets that we had to fill out. Now that you have like Service Titan, ThermoGrid, all SkyBoss, all these other CRMs, are you still having to do all of those forms, or are you saying, okay, pull this report and bring it with you? And then, so they should have.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, well, so they actually bring more information with them, and with everything being in the cloud, they can actually gather more data while on site with you.
I would say that's it. This year we're rolling out. People have been asking for a long time, but they'll be able to submit. We do a lot of exercises at the table. You might remember, filling out your goals and what your measurement is going to be, and what your KPI for that department or that area is going to be. And it was sent down to the war room, and we got a team of people inputting data down there to create the plan. This year we'll have a series of Word documents, PDFs, fillable PDFs that can be filled in. A lot of the history just continues though. So if people are here for the last 4 years, all their service call history is
Yeah.
basically in the workbook. So it just kind of, we keep building upon it. But what's nice now is any number, people can find it just like that, you know, and whereas before, you're right, in the early days,
like,
it'd be people out in the hallway calling and saying, well, go get them, you know, bring them into the office and let's find this, you know. It was those days are gone, you know, and everybody, you know, fires up their laptop and they're in the cloud, you're right, getting the data, so.
Yeah, looking back to those days for me, whenever I started this company here, and so Service Emperor was originally Icebound. I purchased it from a friend in 2018, and it was a one guy in a truck type thing. But basically, I just bought the client list. But I from day one, I knew that I wanted it to be 100% paperless, like as much paperless as possible. And so that was one of the things I just remember thinking back and seeing all the file cabinets. And we had like upstairs above the office was like more filing cabinets that were like those paper totes that you put up there for every 7 years. You had them like lined up. And I just remember thinking, I don't want that. Like I can have a terabyte external hard drive that's the size of this or 3 terabytes and just hold it, and I can put everything on that or something to that effect. And so like, that's just one of the things. Like I carry my entire office around in my book bag, and my goal, my plan is to be able to do that to 8 million. I have it all laid out that way. So hopefully that works out that way anyways. But
well, and you're right. That's what's cool about technology. You know, you think about it, you know, the whole kind of re-engineering of the corporation all started, you know, with, okay, if you're starting over today, you know, and these big companies that, you know, been around for 100 years, how would you do it? It would be completely different, you know, and that's the beautiful thing about starting business right now. You get to, you know, lay all those, you know, old processes to rest and just focus on the technology. And then with, you know, clients being able to vendors being able to send your invoices electronically, they can be attached into whatever your accounting system is. It's, you know,
it's really different. It's crazy how much different it is since even 05, and 05 is not that long ago, but it's crazy how much things have changed since then.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we're getting towards the end of our time, and we've talked about a lot of things, but I really want people to understand. I mean, I think I may have conveyed the importance of BDR in my role in my life. But I want people to make sure that they understand how to get in touch with you and how to learn more about you. And could you share that with us?
Of course. Certainly, there's a lot of information on our website, and that's bdrco.com, so bdrco.com. And they're welcome to email me personally. My email address is Bruce Wiseman at bdrco.com. And my last name is spelled Wiseman. No, and we have calls coming in literally every day with dealers with questions that have maybe been to a training years ago, and maybe they've never been to a training. They've heard that we've got some resources that might be able to help them, and we're providing that, you know,
That's
basically
awesome.
just on request. So we'll do whatever we can to help anybody. We give back to the industry. We're very fortunate to be here, and we're humble servants, and we just we've got heartfelt caring for our clients and for the industry, and that's part of our values.
We appreciate that very much.
So, you know, one of the things about, do we got a couple more minutes?
Go
okay.
Ahead. Yeah.
You know, part of it is you mentioned that we were starting this back prior to the pandemic outbreak. It was going to be on components of business planning, and you know, there's lots of reasons to plan, and I think those reasons are more important now than ever. And part of it is we've all known, we've heard, you know, it's been beat into us that there's a technician shortage and all that. And 2018 Department of Labor numbers said there was at that time 70,000 short. By 2022, by 2022 they projected 115,000 short. And they were doing that, which right now, based on some stats I was reading in the last couple of months, there's roughly 230,000 technicians. So if you just think about that, in 2022, there's going to be a 50% shortage. Well, we need to know when we're going to need technicians based on where our call count is, what our marketing is going to bring in, and some projections. Some of the things that you were talking about earlier with your experience with the 8 for 10 report, and you're able to track your growth, and you're managing your travel time, and so you knew when to bring on technicians. You didn't bring all. I think you said you started with one and you went to 7 or 8.
8, yeah.
Yeah, and you did that to a plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't just walk in and say, "Hey, Fred, we're going to hire 8 people tomorrow." And,
I mean, I might have said that a couple of times, but he threw the Bible at me.
Yeah. So some other things too, and this is just it really does wear on me. The industry is basically a 2% plus or minus industry from a net profit standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And really what that means is most people don't break even until the first week of December. So they work all
that's scary.
Year. That is scary. And that's who we're all competing against. That's who you're competing against.
Mm-hmm.
That's where, Fred's competing, in whatever we can do.
And they stay in business. How?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I tell you, there was a big washout in the 2008, 2009 timeframe. I think in a 3-year period, we lost something like 44% of the contractors. In other words, those that kind of were there at the beginning of the Great Recession, and then at the end, 42% of those didn't come through. Mm-hmm. And we pull stats all the time, and even between 2017 and 2018, there was a 14% attrition. So dealers that were there in 2017 were not there in 2018.
Wow,
that's pretty wild. You kind of go. Now, some of that could have been. There's a lot of sales going on right now, right? I mean, or there has been. There's been a lot of companies. You bought from a friend. I don't know if he or she was of retirement age, and you were able to.
Yeah, he just wanted to get out of the industry. He wanted to get out of that business. So
okay. So anyways, there was a stat in Inc. magazine a couple of years ago that said that 75% of all businesses, small businesses in the United States, will change hands in the next 10 years. We're 2 or 3 years into that. So there's a lot of opportunity. In fact, I think I heard that you were putting a call out for a company, and was it Dodge City in Kansas or something?
Yeah. Yep, Dodge City, Kansas. Yeah, we're trying to expand all over the place. We're getting out there. We're trying.
Okay, well, you and I should talk more. Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
I'd love to do that. Let's see. Also other reasons to plan. There's a lot of focus that's and the spotlight on these larger companies that are 10, 15, $20 million. Mm-hmm. Well, people don't just stumble into a $20 million company. At one point in time, they had 5 people, right?
Or less.
And they started planning their way through. And it's important to have a plan. Plus, our country is looking for leadership. Employees in our industry are looking for leadership. And if you're waiting for somebody to retire before you can get into that next promotion, or the owner that maybe has a fear of growth, mm-hmm. right? I tried that once. Yep. I got clobbered. So he came back to what he or she was comfortable with. Yep. I get that. I understand. But for most of us, our business is going to be our primary asset. Yeah. And that's going to be something that hopefully we can, if we want to, we can pass on to our children. We can pass on to our team members. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's going to be spun off to somebody else. But that's our retirement. That's what potentially we're working for. It's what I think that's what our key people want. They want a growing company, mm-hmm. So which involves all those things, from an organizational chart, how to build a company culture, a marketing plan. I know you do a lot of marketing planning.
Oh yeah.
And that's you're all over the place. So it's good to see you. I really enjoy your podcast. And you've had some real leaders on there, and it's I always pick several things up.
Good.
So and by the way, on exit planning and everything, that's part of a plan, true, right? That becomes part of your business plan.
I've talked to some brokers. I've talked to several brokers on the podcast, and they've all said within, like, after you started year 2, year 3, start planning your exit. Like, treat every year, even if it's not your exit. Like we all know, we talked about beforehand, you don't always plan for everything that's going to happen. And if you have that exit strategy already built into place, if something, God forbid, happened to me, then it's there. Somebody else can follow the guideline and use that to help exit the family out of the business.
Right. Well, to that end, Tersh, when we started talking before the intro, I had mentioned that Barry had passed, and I think many of your listeners have met Barry over the years, and he was one of those, the man, the myth, the legend, and just a really just a giant in the industry. And again, I'm honored to work with him and to know him and have him as a friend and a business partner. He and I, let's see, so we started in 1998, really got rolling in 99 for all practical purposes. But by 2002, we had an exit strategy. We had our exit plan in place.
There you go. Yeah. So
funded life insurance, kind of buy sells, what that was going to look like. And, we updated it 2008 or 9, to get current with where we were from that early stage. And then we updated it again in 2016. And anyways, and for those that haven't heard, Barry was killed in a motorcycle accident on November 9th of 2018. And, it'll be one of those things you never forget where you were when you got the phone call. And anyways, so we started the grieving process and had a celebration of life a couple of weeks later. And there must have been 350, 400 people that showed up to that thing. And some of them were from the Seattle area, but most of them were flying in from across the country. It was something special. And a fitting exit for just a great person. But what was amazing is his personal representative, or the executor of his estate, was appointed on December 26th or December 28th of 2018. And I basically was able to settle with the estate through our buy-sell agreement on March 8th. So that's January, February, 8 days of March. So 68, 70 days, unheard of.
That's crazy.
And I can tell you,
if he was alive and kicking, like that would be unheard of. But for him, to be so well laid out, for him to have passed and you could still do it that quickly, that's crazy.
Yeah, and I mentioned earlier that nothing good happens by accident, and so we could have had a double tragedy, if there was no plan. We were a large company, we had, 60 people or so, and
hundreds of companies depending on it.
Yes, absolutely. There is, talk about weight in your shoulders. I started thinking about that. It's not just the family of BDR.
And then the families of the companies that are like, because Fred's got he probably has 20 employees now, 30 employees, somebody like that. And then there's hundreds of those size companies that are working with you. So yeah, I can only imagine that.
So, it was important to quickly get that settled. And, but because we had a good plan in place, we were able to do it. And it brought stability, some foundation, some reassurance that things were going to be all right. And we had a plan. And I know I'm real clinical about it right now, but it was, and it would have been the same thing for Barry. Had I been the one that was in that accident, he would have been set up. My family would have been taken care of. And, I just, every time I get with a business owner, I start talking about, well, what's your plan? Do you have key man insurance? Is there an exit plan in place? What if something happens? Because over the years, we've had families come in and just say, my husband or my spouse passed away. And what do I do now? They've been in the business for 30 years, and maybe the spouse never came in. That wasn't their thing, and all of a sudden it is today. Yeah. So you've got to have a plan in place. So anyways, I don't know if I could talk for hours. I know.
No, we're good. You dropped some gold there for sure. And I know that the listeners really, really value that for sure. And if anybody has any questions, reach out to Bruce or reach out to myself. You all know my email address, but mine's Tersh at Tersh at serviceemperor.com. And then Bruce, his is Bruce Wiseman at BDRCO.com. And, don't hesitate to reach out to either one of us. And Bruce is going to have a lot more information to give you, but I can direct you towards Bruce. So, or right. Bruce's team.
Perfect.
And don't hesitate to reach out to us. And especially right now during this time of crisis. And even if you're listening to this 4 or 5 years from now and you just happened upon this podcast, and don't hesitate to reach out to whoever, and we'll get you taken care of. So anything else you want to add last?
No, I would just echo that. We are here as a resource for the industry, for the home services industry, and thank you for having me, Tersh. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, my pleasure. Absolutely. And for anybody that's listened to this podcast, thank you for listening to the Service Business Mastery Podcast, the podcast focused on service business owners, managers, and technicians who are considering becoming business owners themselves. Until we talk again next week, have a wonderful day.